confronted by security officers, and the CNN camera was confiscated as well. Tell us about that incident. I know it's difficult, and I know I'm seeing you wipe your eyes there, Ben, because of the tear gas.
Yeah, what I can tell you is that at about 1 o'clock local time, the crew, Mary Rogers, Tommy Evans, and I were right off Tahrir Square when we were between a group of protesters and a very large group of policemen, plainclothed and otherwise. And those, they sort of, about 12 of them gathered around us, threatening to beat us with their clubs and sticks. And, you know, they wanted to take the camera. We struggled with them to keep the camera, but they broke it. They broke it and then just took it away. Now, I have spoken with the head of the State Information Service, Ismail Khairat, who is a senior Egyptian official, and I said, do you have any comment upon the repeated incidents that we know of journalists being attacked and their equipment broken by the police? And he said, no comment.
All right, so right now in Cairo, Egypt, a country you've covered for so many years, I have to just ask you, what is going through your mind? How historic is what is happening right now in Egypt, Ben?
This, you know, it's always difficult to predict today the historical value of any event, but this certainly is a massive development. You know, Hosni Mubarak's been in power since 1981. Very few challenges to his regime. And, you know, I've known Egyptians for a very long time, and they're an incredibly, as you know, incredibly patient, incredibly good-humored. They find a joke in everything. But what I'm hearing time and time again from people is we are fed up. We're fed up. We're tired with this system, police brutality, corruption, a dictatorship. They want to change. And what we're seeing is that patience has finally cracked, and they are coming out into the streets as we haven't seen in decades. Hala?
What I find interesting, Ben, is we are now, you and I and so many millions of others watching developments in Egypt, we are now seriously talking about Egypt after Hosni Mubarak.
Oh, it's way too early to talk about Egypt after Hosni Mubarak. I mean, nobody knows. There's, because of the way the government has cracked down on the opposition, sort of neutered it in a sense, there are no real figures who can step forward and credibly take control of the country. You have Mohammed El-Baradei, who's a Nobel Peace Prize winner and somebody widely respected abroad, but here in Egypt, many people feel he missed the boat. He didn't really take the opportunity to push the opposition to become a more credible force against the government. He missed Tuesday's massive demonstrations. He came back now, but our understanding is he was detained by the police and he's now under house arrest. Although it's very difficult to confirm that information because, of course, as I'd like to remind everyone, the cell phones don't work, the internet doesn't work, and landlines are spotty.
What would normally be going on there outside of where you're standing, Ben? What would we normally be seeing versus what's going on right now?
On a normal Friday in Cairo? You would be seeing people on pleasure boats on the Nile. This street below us, the Corniche, would be full of people, young couples holding hands. Cairo is an incredibly active and lively place where people genuinely enjoy this massive city of 18 million people. There would be traffic, even though this Friday is the weekend here. There would be traffic. The streets would be full of traffic, and I probably wouldn't be able to hear you over the racket, nor you I. Olive?
So once again, just reminding our viewers what you witnessed there, Ben Wedeman, from your vantage point in Cairo, armored personnel carriers, at least two you saw. Have you seen any more with the significant development that at least a few elements of the military have hit the streets of the Egyptian capital?
Yes, a truly historic intervention, if this is the case, if the army is being brought in. The question is the army enough, with its prestige and with the respect that it enjoys from so many Egyptians? Is it going to end this Battle of Cairo that we've been seeing now for the last 5 hours? Difficult to say. Now here I see, if we go pan back onto the bridge, we can see hundreds of people still trying to get to Tahrir Square. Tahrir, of course, being liberation. Many Egyptians saying they want to be liberated from this government that certainly has shown that it has some very sharp fangs today.
We talked about, Ben, your altercation with security forces, and you're not the only journalist or the only crew who was roughed up. I want to show a picture of a BBC Arabic reporter who, after having been injured, went back on air. He's clearly got a bandage on his head and some blood having trickled down the front of his shirt there, and continuing to report. What is it like for journalists today and in the last few days trying to report on these developments out of Egypt, Ben?
Well, I can tell you, Hala, it's been mind-blowing. On Tuesday, we were all expecting demonstrations, but nothing of the size and the scope of what we saw. And covering the demonstrations to a large extent was a pleasure. People were happy, they were overjoyed, they were exhilarated to be able to finally come out and express their feelings as a group all together. It's been tough with the police. The first day wasn't so bad. The second day, things got worse. And today we saw that they're bringing in these plainclothes policemen. According to some Egyptians, these also include criminals who have been released from prison, who are basically being used as the shock troops against the protesters and the press, using billy clubs, short rubber truncheons. And in fact, Tommy Evans, our producer, he had one of those plainclothes policemen right in his face, and he said from the look in his eyes, he looked like he was on some sort of drugs. And so what is the philosophy behind the law enforcement here leaves me somewhat stumped.
All right. As you were speaking to us, a high-level security source has told CNN that Mohammed al-Baradei, the opposition figure who flew in from Vienna yesterday, Mohammed al-Baradei under house arrest. This has been confirmed to CNN as these demonstrations continue, as Egypt continues to experience this turmoil and these demonstrations on the street. An important American ally, the United States, not in any way having come out encouraging demonstrations, quite the contrary, according to some critics in the Arab world. We are going to give you, thank you, Ben. We're going to go back to Ben, of course, as soon as developments emerge from Cairo. Just giving you an update there on Hosni Mubarak. This is the man that many of these demonstrators want to see gone. He's been in charge for more than a generation. An emergency law has been in effect in Egypt for almost as long as he has been in power. Here's some background on Hosni Mubarak, the 82-year-old aging autocrat of Egypt. He has been in power for almost 30 years, taking office in 1981 after the assassination of Anwar Sadat. Just want to show you some of the best pictures, however, before we move on to that, of what's going on across the country. Let's take a look. Just confirming there with our producers, these are live images, is that correct? These are live images there. You see there some of the protesters trying to, as Ben Wiedemann was telling us, trying to make it to Tahrir Square, the gathering point. Tahrir Square, which has become sort of the